By the way, we decided that I will be sharing the screen, so if you could make me a co-host, that would be great.
I will let Hua try to deal with that. Good morning, class. Welcome back to our class for Human Resource Management. As you guys know in our schedule, week 3, we've talked about recruiting and the proper use of CVs and CV tracking systems, automatic tracking systems, ATS. Many of the big companies use this when they have any applicants going in. That's software that just goes through your resume looking for keywords or key skills. I'll flash you that in a second. We also talked a little bit last week about selecting employees, how you can actually use that ATS and other details. This week, chapter 5, although we're talking about, week 5, chapter 8 is talking about orientation and employee training. And we've got a lot of interesting information here. The most important thing that we should be talking about is this idea of your future developing your background research so that you can show the world you are a specialist by knowing what key other people are saying. So ideally, people are going to be able to present at least one page of identifying several other articles that are reliable and how to use those. As we saw in the first week, the training week, we had this file here that shows, hopefully you guys can see it okay. It shows a big folder with many different articles, and you have summarized a few comments about this article, summarized a few comments about this article, and each article put them together to align them to help one specific company, what other company you want to work with. And each file, each article is approximately worth $50. So if you have 10 of these, that's $500 or whatever it's going to be. And then if you add value to it, put it into a PPT to align it to help a company, that could be worth $10,000 or something or other. As I said in the past, I have had a group of students work together, big group, basically a whole class. They put together their work and they ended up selling their paper to a company for $120,000. So good luck for you guys. This week, as I say, is one of the most important because you're showing you're not just a young person with no experience. You're showing you know what the greatest minds in the world are saying about a certain topic, and you're trying to teach something new. Ideally, you are surrounding yourself and replicating the best minds and the best styles. You're benchmarking the best things. So you find a good paper, one good paper that you really love, and you replicate that same style of abstract, same style of keywords, same style of introduction, etc. Just continue this research as we discussed here so that you would have your paper. Another thing for today, if you have, for example, a one group partner, then the first one that's writing part of your paper can highlight their information in green. The other person can keep things in black and white. Or if you have a third group member, the next group member can highlight things in yellow or orange or something. So if you highlight your work so that I can see how much of the work you did and the group can show how much of the work each group member did, that would help for identifying what each person is able to do. So with that said, we are going through the review, but knowing that the time is limited and you should be proactive in presenting your work to get 15 marks. Is that clear, Tobias?
Yes, yeah. I could start presenting now if that's all right.
Awesome.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen, right?
Sure, yes. And every other student in the group, same thing goes for you guys. You get better marks, higher marks if you guys are proactive. Don't just wait until the last minute to show details.
Okay, so everyone can see my screen now.
I can see some stranger is starting to show
Yes, yes.
research sources overview. I don't see. Oh, yes, there is names there. Great.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, my teammates had some other assignments, so I'm gonna start with my part today, and they will present their parts on Thursday, if that's all right. And I have my sources stated here, and I have some notes to them. So the first one is an article with the name "Going Green and Sustainable: The Influence of Green HR Practices on the Organizational Rationale for Sustainability." And it's been published in the Journal of Business Research. It's a Scopus article. And yeah, I think maybe it's helpful to know our topic. Our topic is how green human resource management influences employees' pro-environmental behaviors. So we want to know how green human resource management can bring employees to think greener and to act greener in corporate environment. So this first article is like really helpful as a basis to understand what green HR has as an influence. And yeah, that also shows there's also stated what measures are suited and what measures were helpful to implement green HR in a company. And the head author had a PhD at Cambridge and is a professor of HRM at Lisbon University. So I think it's a really trustworthy source. And yeah, and the second one is a study of green HR practices and its effective implementation in the organization. So it's kind of in the same direction as the first one, but it's a bit more specific on what kind of measures you can take and how effective they were. So they made kind of a study and yeah, have some effect, or they showed what management principles are suited to implement green HR management in a company. And that's also really helpful to get a basis for us and to know where to start and which measures are helpful for us to deduct and to question people about. And yeah, the head author of this one had an MBA, a PhD, and he got over 50 publications, so all Scopus publications, and I think that's also a very trustworthy source. Then the third one is a little bit more specific. It's about green HR communication practices in software companies. It's an employee's insight, and that's also very interesting for us because it's like interesting how people perceive measures for green HR and how you should communicate green HR management to the employees to make it effective. And this one is a little bit more objective, but it's still interesting for us because they really provide some data about employees in software companies. And I think that's also really helpful, but it's maybe not as trustworthy as the other ones because it's like not that objective, it's subjective. And yeah. Yeah, and the fourth one is like another study about green companies and the millennial generation as a spearhead of environment. So about how millennial generations are influenced and their consuming behavior by the image of companies, and how the green image of companies gets more and more important for consumers, like in the millennial generation. And that's also important because that could deliver some reasons to implement green HR management. So yeah, I hope we find some reasons for why our research is so valuable, and for that we have that study. So that's about my sources.
Great, thank you very much for that. To do the best human resource management and the best communications and the best interactions or presentations for class, make sure we remember what is the SRC. You know your details. I kind of appreciate, I know quite a bit of your details. For example, I'm a geek, so I know what Scopus is, but most of the world and many people listening may not understand what you're talking about. So as you're presenting, as you're communicating with somebody, especially if you're managing them in HR management, check to make sure the other people understand. So I could go on and keep teaching, but I'm giving you a hint to either remind students that you're not presenting today, you're actually presenting on Thursday, so it's skip our group for the next group, or check somebody understands these details. For example, go ahead.
No, what did you want to say?
I was just going to start teaching him and say, okay, Andre, do you know what he said? Or do you know what Scopus is? Because many of the people in the world might not know. Something like that. Or you could actually get much more in depth and ask, did you really understand? Do you have any questions or comments? Or could you evaluate and give me maybe 3 ideas for me to improve the next time we present? That type of interaction makes sure other people understand you and you have a relationship with them. If you want to go even farther and say, please, 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 can somebody do me a favor and do something for you? That would start a relationship, like we talk about sort of with Guangxi. And if you get somebody to help you do something like improve or any sort of activity in the future, they feel better, even if you're talking about good news or bad news or strange natural disasters, whatever. If you ask somebody to do a favor for you, that usually makes a better relationship. So, like I said, if you wanted to ask Andre or any other classmates to comment or give you some improvements, that would probably help.
Yeah, sure thing. So if there are any questions, that's I thought it was like normal, but yeah, sure. If anyone has any questions, yeah, please ask.
If we're in India, you would probably get a lot of people, maybe even in the United States, you get a lot of people jumping up and trying to comment, like Donald Trump pretending to know everything, even though they may not know anything. But in Korea, because we understand the average person here has a very high tendency to avoid things they're not certain of, even if it's a simple thing. How do you spell pencil or how do you spell pen? Nobody will usually put their hand up in a group, especially if it's in the foreign language. So if you just ask, does anybody have a question? Does anybody have a comment? Even if they do know, they probably won't say anything unless you say, Group 6, say something. Group 9, say something. Or Mr. George, you say something. So being specific overcomes that in countries that have the high uncertainty avoidance.
So I'll just ask some specific people, like, yeah, we'll start with Andre. Do you have any remarks about my stuff?
I don't have any remarks about your stuff. I'm not the one to grade it. And I understood it. It was clear.
Okay, thanks. Maybe some Korean, Jong Ho Moon, I think it is. Maybe you have something to say.
Well, I think what you said was very clear, and I think you did a lot of research about your topic. And I don't have any more suggestions.
Both of those comments are, they're cheating. They're basically a way to say blah, 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 blah. I was sleeping. I don't know what you're talking about. But they're very polite and professional. I can't give you guys, Andre and Joe Moore, I can't give you guys many marks because you didn't really add value to it, but it was professional. Starting by saying thank you for your presentation. Great. If I gave you some comments, you understand everyone in class. Let me start taking over and sharing details. Before I start talking about the topic this week, let's go back and review this idea. We should identify other research that we have and realize that there's hundreds of millions or billions of other files you can research, including how your drunk neighbor says having unicorns helps you. So you need to identify what is the crazy neighbor's advice versus what is the world's most respected, most reliable source of information from this type of journal. You've identified Scopus, but you understand it, I understand it, maybe nobody else in the world. Very few people know what Scopus is. Very, very few people, even my students. So say what that is. And then say, here is the file that we love, and we're modifying it or continuing this research in this way. And then say that this article is not from the drunk neighbor just babbling nonsense. It's also valuable, this is valuable, or how valuable it is. And then combine that. Whenever you're combining it into either a presentation or an actual notes file, that makes you look the best. So thank you for that. With that, I wanted to take my chance. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I'm not going to let you take your chance. I would like to present our presentation for group 5.
And Andre, you want to be co-host?
Yes.
While you're getting ready, again, week 3, talking about recruiting employees, I just wanted to point out slide 27 is talking about something really important. And this blue link here, I briefly went through and I talked about it, but I just wanted to check. Have any of you actually checked on this link? Because this actually is an embedded file. Just like employers, they will give information like a keyword or key skills required, but unless you dig into details, you're going to miss out on details. And so this idea of the automatic tracking system, a robot that checks applicants, it will spit out details like this: how to manage your CV, to get the jobs, to be noticed, even if you're not the best. And so it says, number 1, what is this automatic software? Number 2, why are so many companies using this? And it says an example here. Number 3, notifying you that they're being used everywhere. I get dozens. Here it is. I get dozens of emails all the time, spam mail coming in, offering jobs to me like this. And so I don't know if you can see it easily, but here's a job saying faculty position, international business in the University of Ottawa, Canada. And you can go through and you will see some details. Why is this important to you? It's important to you to be able to understand what's in your mind, and your experience is not that important, because these people are probably using this software. So you need to understand that ATS software and check what are keywords in here that show what they value. And whatever those words are, whatever those keywords or key skills are, make sure you copy and put them into your resume. So here's more details. It's talking about many different job opportunities that might be available, and you can track them by the keywords. Put in anything you want here, or by the location, and by the level. There's many different ways that these softwares track applicants and track jobs and match you together, and they don't really care about feelings or the neighbor's dog. They're just looking for those words the people typed in. Be aware of that information. It goes through, there's many different examples. I'm just killing time until some other students actually start presenting your stuff. Otherwise, make sure you know how this stuff works. It's explained there. Thank you, Andre. So, Andre, before you start talking, could you identify perhaps how some software would did you stop? Oh no, you stopped.
No. I needed to unmute myself. It's not possible during screen sharing. Somehow.
Okay. So if you could show the world, what do you think the automatic software would look for if what you're showing is trying to promote you? If this is your resume, or if this is talking about your experience, how does this PPT slide, how should it be made to get you a job or to make the world think you're valuable? Understand?
Yes, as you mentioned, it should contain the keywords.
Okay, so what type of job would you love to have 5 years from now or in the future?
I would like to be a recruiter for a company or work on projects which are related to improvement of recruitment in companies.
Okay, there's about 500 million people doing something like that. Do you want to be just any recruiter, any HR manager, or can I guess
I want to be a recruiter who uses artificial intelligence.
There we go. So
efficiently.
Now give me 3 words or 5 words that if we had all resumes from everybody on the planet listed down and the computer went through every word of every resume, what are the 5 words you want associated with you?
Artificial intelligence.
Good thing you put it together. Andre is artificial. No, but Andre, artificial intelligence linked together. Great. What about that first basics? Who are you? How do I contact you if I love you? I'm talking business professionally, and like I am married. I'm not talking about that type of love, but if some company loves you and they find this online, how can they give you a job? How can they contact you? Oh,
I should put my contact information in.
Right, but don't forget, there's crazy people like me too, right? Jung Moon, he's nodding his head. Yes, Professor Watts, he's really, really crazy. So you don't want your home address because I could be a stalker, right? What type of contacts should you put on almost anything nowadays, since everything is now public information? How could Jung Moon contact you even if he loves you and wants to be a stalker and you don't want stalkers coming to your house at 3 o'clock in the morning? I had students literally talking to me at 2 a.m. last night.
I would probably give him my email because that is the safest type of contact I could give him. Definitely not phone number, not any social media accounts.
So like LinkedIn?
Yes, there we go.
Yeah, LinkedIn. Yeah.
LinkedIn is one of the best because don't forget, like my phone and my email, I get, I don't know, 400 email almost every day. And so a lot of it is spam because I'm so open. And so if you have LinkedIn, the spam robots can't easily find your email from it. But if Jung Moon or Pia wanted to check into LinkedIn, they could find your email. It's just not that easy to do it. So that type of thing would be a good idea. And I don't see it here. So if you wanted to improve your presentation, have a LinkedIn account or a group LinkedIn account for a group project, a group company that you're making, for example. Same thing with Facebook. If you don't want to promote your personal Facebook, you could make a group or a company Facebook account and have that company Facebook page promoted to the world so that you don't get stalkers attacking you. And by the way, the students that were talking to me at 2 a.m. last night, you know, I know you're not a stalker. I'm just using you for an example. Please continue.
All right. I didn't even start it, so I cannot continue. So let me welcome everyone to our presentation. Today we will be talking about the literature and the background review for our group project, which is titled "How Does Artificial Intelligence Change the Recruitment and Selection Processes?" So let's go through agenda first. I will be talking, the first slide will be about search procedure, like how did we look for those articles for our background literature. And the articles we found are related to 3 areas of the topic, which is AI in recruitment and selection, how does AI change HRM, and about user acceptance. So the search procedure, we use several different databases so far, which is mostly Scopus, where we found 8 articles, and Google Scholar, where we found 1 article. And the focus of the search was, as I mentioned in the previous slide, about AI technologies used in recruiting and selection. How does AI change human resource management, and literature about user acceptance. So AI in recruitment and selection, we made this really fancy table where you can see all the information about the publication. First is the author, then the title, year it was published, where it was published, what it contains, the findings, and which database it came from. So those 3 articles are related to AI in recruitment and selection. I think I don't need to go through it and explain everything because it's pretty clear and well organized, I would say. And the first 2 articles are from Scopus, and the last one is from Google Scholar. And I will leave it out for Pia from here.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, maybe we can just go over it really quick, what it contains. So the first one is basically focusing on findings like broadening an application pool, reaching passive job applicants. The second one is how to optimize the process of recruitment by reducing time, also saving costs and reducing obstacles presented by geographical distances, what we already talked about a lot. And the last article on this slide said, for example, that AIs are more precise and supposedly eliminate human biases. And all of them were published in papers either regarding tourism, which was one point, or human resource management was basically the main points. And we all found them, or most of them were found on Scopus, and they had very high reviews. Most of the publishers had very good age indexes. I'm not sure if this is the correct word, but they were rated very high. So that's why we used them so far. And then we have a last slide for user acceptance, which will be presented by John Ho.
So for a user acceptance, we also found 3 articles from the Scopius articles, which was like all of them were cited more than 40 times. First article is talking about how users feel about using the artificial intelligence on their recruiting process. But usually we can find that people feel more fair about using offline recruitment process than artificial intelligence recruiting process. So people were kind of reluctant to use about it. And second one was about how people feel about decisions of artificial intelligence. Some people were pretty negative about it, but some people think it is pretty unbiased if we use artificial intelligence, so it can be more clear decisions. But for the last article, we could also find kind of hope that as people get more used to using artificial intelligence recruitment, if they find it that it is beneficial, people are more likely to use AI recruitment. So we currently find out that as people get used to this AI process, people will get more benefits from this process, and they might like it. So this is what we found from our 3 articles. The last slide we'll talk about preferences. Thank you.
Good. Any other comments before I jump in? I talked too much, so I should take a short pause before I assume you guys are finished.
Should I stop sharing, or you want to go through some slides?
Well, do you want, the more you can share, the usual better you can do, right? So for example, if you're asking me my comments, I would say you did an awesome job, but I notice here your references aren't in alphabetical order. So it's like 99.999% perfect. That's
Okay.
small type of detail. It's obviously not really important to me, but there are a lot of, what's the politically correct way to say, tight ass people that are looking for commas and capital letters or whatever, like the alphabetical order, that type of thing. Sometimes, especially if it's a job interview, like if it's really important, some people really pay attention to that. For example, do you have, you know, dirty shoes or ripped jeans or something like that? Some people notice that stuff versus other people only care about the results. Do you have good results? And I notice you guys, can you guys back up a few slides? Because these references, although they're good, they're not completely finished. For example, your B guy, you didn't say where it was. You just said the name and the year and the title of the article. This, what you're showing now, is really, really good. Do you guys understand why? If we forget about the AI and we just think about the human characteristics, how many people in our class do you think, even though you're sharing the link to your files, and even though you have an amazing 10-page research project written out, how many of your classmates do you think are going to actually read your actual paper? Me, only me, maybe. So assume that is reality, right? You want to be successful, but a lot of people have to do research for their job, but they don't want to read a lot. I don't know, people are allergic to libraries and reading nowadays. So, you know, some people can, obviously you guys do, but most people may not. So what do you have right here? Why am I excited about what you're showing? This is a chart. It's a table showing many, many different research results in a very short, confined space that's easy to copy, easy to reference, so any other lazy person can just copy this and maybe add one thing to it, and then they look like a genius. And they don't even have to read your whole paragraph or one paragraph at all. They just copy this chart. So please be aware of that. Whenever you're writing an essay, whenever you're giving a presentation, if you're just using point form words or paragraphs with words called wordy details, regular people probably aren't going to read it. But if you have it summarized in a nice chart like this, it's very easy for people to copy. Hopefully they don't steal it and say it's all theirs, but even the fact that them looking at you and referencing you makes you, through Google and your keywords, more successful. The more times people open your file, you get more successful. The more times people actually properly reference you, the more you become famous. And whoever has the most fame or the most people looking at you or the most references, you guys called it cited. Some people are cited 400 times, 40 times, you said, which is not bad. Other people are cited, 10,000 times. Obviously it makes a difference. If you've only had your information online for a day and 40 people already reference you, that's really good. But if you've had it online for like 20 years and only 20 people reference you, that basically means you stink. So if you have a chart like this, it's easy for people to reference you. It takes the work away and still makes you look good. So Guillaume Lecar, could you summarize what I just said, since I talked too much and you might not have understood? Was that a no?
Hi, sorry, but I don't understand all, so I can't.
Okay, Pia, Andre, Jolamun, since you guys are the ones teaching to the world, most of the world doesn't speak English. How could you develop the relationships that way? You went beyond what Tobias did. Tobias just had his the titles and the references, and then he talked about it. So by talking about it, it was very good. But people with a challenge with English, they might not understand Tobias as much as you guys, which actually spelled it out. You have these charts summarizing your ideas. So you're saying it basically twice in some sense. But have you ever heard of ESL? And I'm not talking about studying English. I'm talking about communicating or managing other people, ESL. So when you work with people of a different culture or different value, especially a different language, say your English on a second line. So say whatever's important, find out whatever the keywords are, and say those keywords in a different way. So you say it 2 different ways. So somebody might understand you the first time, but they might not be clear. But if you say it a second time, it helps them really understand what you're talking about. So that's one good trick to managing, making sure people understand you. The other thing is, like Tobias started to do, as soon as you stop talking, don't just pass it on to some other boring guy to make people go to sleep. Check the listeners understand. So you guys presented very well, and I'm a geek. So you shouldn't take me as a regular example. You should check some other normal people in your group and check, do they understand what you're trying to say? Jong-Moon, could you tell me in less than 10 seconds, what was your message to the world? What do you want the world to remember about this talk today?
We have reliable resources for our topic.
That's 4 words, 5 words, 6 words.
Read it.
Is that it? We have reliable resources? Okay, you will be valued the same as hopefully at least 60% of anybody that's gone through schooling. Okay, Andre, I've already tortured you several times this morning. Pia, would you be able to try to be more of a specialist, understanding the software programs? We're only looking for keywords. Let's say, who's it? Guillaume Lecar, he's very busy. He's a very big, successful businessman. He doesn't have time to listen for hours and hours and hours to people like me. So what are the 5 words or 10 words you want him to remember?
One word would be experts, that we're experts
Good.
for AI in recruitment. So AI in recruitment would be a word or 3 words. And then also reliable literature and research work, maybe something like that, so that we have like all the keywords related to our topics and our research.
All right, now let's start looking at a little bit more in depth. Since even in chapter 3, we started talking about the way that AI works and the way that this online recruitment works and the way that you guys have to be living your life and planning your life. I just heard 2 people say the same thing, in some sense, reliable research. Well, why would anybody care about that sentence? We have, what was it, 6 words, Jong-Moon said, and thank you. We have very reliable research articles or whatever it is. Isn't the only thing important is just reliable? Or because the software is going to show how many people check you and how many times you're referenced. So the reliable research is the same thing. If you don't have research, you're not going to be reliable. So you're saying the same thing. That's one thing. So check what words, and then think back again. In your mind, it's not important what you think. It's important what the computer thinks. It's important what the artificial intelligence thinks. And that doesn't have a brain. It doesn't know reliable and research are basically connected. It only knows if your paper or your presentation is viewed a lot, it tracks numbers of views. And it says whatever that is, it says you are reliable. Whoever's tracked the most, whoever's referenced the most, that is the most reliable. So your 6 words could be narrowed down to 1, something like that. So try to remember that and make sure you put on your contacts so famous people can give you jobs. I have been contacted because I had something on the YouTube, just like we're doing today. I think it was a year ago today. And they offered me many thousands of dollars for a video I made about 10 years ago. If we followed Andre and only had your name and no contacts, I would have lost out on those thousands of dollars because of a video that's 10 years old. So make sure you're promoting yourselves. And again, you guys were promoting your student numbers. How many people in the world care or really understand what your student number is? You're probably going to have thousands of people getting up their phone, dialing this number into their phone, saying, damn it, it doesn't work. I can't contact Pia. There's only what, 57892, whatever it is. And that's not her phone number. It doesn't work, right? The world understands a certain thing. You need to think what the world wants and communicate to them. Some professors like that you're using the student names, student numbers, but having your personal context is much better. Anyway, thank you very much for this. Anybody else in class wanted to comment or ask questions, since that is very important, or start presenting before I go back to presenting my stuff?
I think it's okay.
Great. I can't give you really marks for that because that's just a pleasantry, but thank you. It's very professional. Chohebin or Chohewan, good morning. Would you like to say anything? You can shake your head. You can tell me no. Keep teaching, professor. Stop bothering me if you want.
I just want to say to that member, Kim, since it would be so impressive for me, because I think it is good example to present our next presentation. So thank you for giving a good presentation for me.
Are you saying that you want to give the next presentation?
Oh, no. Thursday.
Okay. Anybody else? Going once, going twice? Okay. You can see my screen. I take notes every day of what you guys are writing. I take notes about what you guys can do. I have written that Tobias, although he is in a group, I don't know who the other group members are, but you presented great references and summary information. This other group, they gave great information. They said Scopus many, many times, which experts will understand, but most of the world won't. However, Jong Moon clarified that, and you said Scopus articles are cited 40 times. A lot of people still might not understand cited many times, but those people that don't understand that, maybe forget about them. You don't want their interaction anyway. So that was very good. And you summarized the key articles, UNPS, so that was very, very good. And the whole idea of having that table is very, very valuable. So I gave you 14 out of 15. Great work. If you actually showed details with that perfect contact ability, or if you made a paper that would be easier to publish, that paper could be published at least in a student paper or a student magazine. That's very easy for anyone to do. And then if you do have it published, you can put that in your resume. But I didn't see a paper. So if you showed a paper document that can be shared or published to promote yourselves, it's even better. And then some very strict people may say your referencing should be in alphabetical order, but I just note the main content. So very good for that. Again, I'm reminding you, in week 3, we were talking about recruiting, and we were talking about the idea of the ATS, automatic, I forget what ATS stands for. Yeah, applicant tracking systems. Right here, that software that companies use. Make sure you understand it. Make sure you understand how that's AI. Make sure you understand how basically nobody reads carefully anymore except the computer programs, and they're not looking for sentences. They're just looking for words, key skills. Learn that. This is the chart online that shows how that works and how you can use it. Step 1, step 2, step 3, all the way through. Make sure you understand keywords. I think that's very, very valuable. Our staff, the TA staff, the research and teaching assistants can give you a lot of information about how you can use keywords, find keywords the best. It keeps going through. There's different examples here, how to make a resume, what to do, what not to do, even the special fonts. Like I use Monotype Corsica, but because it looks like writing, but you can't really use that because computers often mistake those things so they can't read them. So Arial type of font is easier for computers to read. That type of thing. Use one of the same fonts for everything, because as soon as the computer starts looking in one way, it will continue for your whole your presentation. How to improve your odds. Match keywords, use keywords in context, like use other words around it or synonyms around it. Apply early. If you want to get this 15 marks for your presentation, don't wait until I use up all of the time. Don't try coming to me at the end of class once it's finished saying, oh, I still have a presentation. I'll say, nice. Well, you can present it next year if you fail. If you want marks, if you want to do well, you must be proactive. So do things early, not late. Use the free tools like Facebook. Billions of people use Facebook, but in my personal opinion, I would say 90% of people using Facebook use it wrong, because they're only posting an image of their dog playing piano, and they don't realize that is usually only noticed by the people that are close friends with you already. And only if you use the keywords in the analytics program or the insights program, then it will go to somebody in Brazil or Argentina or South Africa, and it'll go around the world. But if it's just a photo or just a few notes, that is usually only seen by your mom and your best friends. So use those analytics tools, or like I showed you, these type of tools, these type of programs that can interact with you. Next, let's go on. I think that's about it. There's the website for details here. Week 4, we were talking about selecting, so it's overlapping a lot of the same details. I think we went through this during part of a session last week. I wanted to point out this week's information, in addition to how you can use these online systems, online tracking systems. You can see that for example, this is my resume, and you start your resume with contacts. I am not normal. I have my personal cell phone number here, and I get a lot of spam messages, but I accept it. And the family has several different phones, and I almost always turn my ringer off and tell people that they must, if they know me, they must understand that and contact me in several different ways, several different times. So use the keywords. There's a lot of words that I may do in my resume that are repeated several different times, like professor, and in other ways teach, or in other ways lecture, or in other ways instruct, or train, or development, that type of thing. And in your first main page, the core experience you have. What are the main things? What are you currently doing? What's your experience? You're developed. What have you demonstrated overall? But then, although some people say you should only have one page, why? Who the heck says that, other than very, very lazy HR staff or lazy admin staff? If you think you're valuable, show the world. If you think that you're more valuable than one page, show it. How many pages is my resume? I think I'm on 43 pages here. It's going to take a while for my computer to catch up to show you, but you're just going to have to trust me. It's 43 different pages. Here it is. Oh, and references. Like, here's references from me being the vice president of a different university. And there's many different things you could put in here. Other references. Why do some people say, I will give you a reference only if you ask? Well, if things are automatic online, be aware of that. And another thing is, you see this reference, it's blurry. Why do I put it blurry? Because this reference isn't as good as this other reference. This reference is clean, easy for software to track, because this says the best information. And if they start saying kind of a little bit of bad things or how I could improve, I made that blurry so the software can't see it as well. That type of thing. And of course, the idea of the, at the end, awards. Oops, this is definitely not supposed to be public, but here's teaching awards, more teaching awards, that type of thing. Doesn't matter what you like, it matters what, you know, the hiring people like. And obviously, if they're hiring you for a teacher, they want to see you have teaching awards. So be aware of that type of thing. We're going to be running out of time fairly soon. I remind you guys that you need to be proactive. If you want the marks, speak up. There's a teaching team able to help identify you. If you don't want to talk, you can share details in the Facebook group. But other than that, I want to try to talk to you about how you train people. Pia, would you say that I gave you at least a couple of tips on how to train you to deal with AI, even though you're the expert and you're presenting it? Did I give a little bit of training to you about how to work with AI and how HR could work with AI? Was that clear?
Totally. I mean, the keywords were very interesting. Also, I was kind of fascinated by the blurring part. I'll take it as a tip.
Okay. Don't try to create problems if you have 43 pages and one page is a little bit blurry. You're not going to get too many complaints. But if your resume is only 3 pages long and one page or 30% is blurry, then people are going to think you're not professional. So just be aware of that too. What about you, Andre? You want to be an international HRAI specialist. Was my training to you today clear? Are you sufficiently oriented to know how to use it to help you or help other staff you interact with now?
Of course, it was helpful. I actually enjoy you torturing me, because that way I will remember it. And the keywords, as Pia said, are really important, and I didn't really think about it before taking your class that much.
Even though you're teaching it now. Wow, okay, cool.
Yeah, I became an expert in 5 weeks thanks to you. So
great. What about you, Jung Moon? I'm going to give you the hardest question. Do you realize what I just did in the last 1 minute? What was my purpose dealing with Pia and Andre? And I'll give you a hint. I don't really care what they think. That's a joke, but it's to help you understand what I'm actually doing. What do you think I'm doing? Jungmoon, can you guess? How am I orienting them? How am I training them? How am I doing that job of training and orienting them in the last 1 or 2 minutes? Versus, I've been talking nonstop since class started 50 minutes ago. So how was the last 2 minutes special? Can you guess? I'll just give you like 10 seconds and let's just assume people don't understand.
Because we are starting chapter 8, which is orientation and employee training.
Okay, great. That's not my intention, but my intention for you guys is no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're teaching the world, no matter what you're saying, you are a specialist in it. Like, you know AI for HR, but who cares what you know? What is important is what your listeners get from you. Are they getting trained? Not the actual verb, but do they have a value afterwards? Are they actually oriented afterwards? Did they understand? So in the last 2 minutes, what I was doing is checking they understand, making sure what I said was understood, so the new recruits, those people I'm training, are trained and oriented. A lot of people in class may just make, huh, I don't know what he's talking about, and not say anything, and I don't know. I will only know they understand it by hearing their summary of it. Is that clear now, Jung-Moon?
I still have a question about before we start the next chapter, and that would be about the keywords that you mentioned in the CV. And I personally have problems to find out what appropriate keywords would be if I want to go in a special job. So maybe could you tell us how you find those keywords?
Okay, the easiest way, you can see my screen still, right?
Yes.
What do you see here? It's a Google page, right? Now, what kind of job? I just heard Andre and Pia and all of you are talking about HR. So if I write HR, and let's say you want a job, HR manager, but it's not just that, because what can you see on my screen now? Can you see what I'm highlighting here?
Yes. I see
HR
it.
manager job description. Next one, HR manager salary, meaning, jobs, full form, interview questions, roles, responsibility. All of these are keywords. I put in 2 keywords. HR, that's 1 word. At least software thinks it's 1 word. Then manager is another word. Right now they're together. So the computer might think they're 2 different words. It might think it's 1. It will probably treat it as both. They're 2 words and it's 1 word together. However, the computer is now showing you that the job description, that is another popular keyword. You should probably use that a lot. Or salary is another keyword, or meaning, or jobs. All of these are popular keywords. If I get more specific and put HR manager in quotes, that's telling the software that it has to be together. You don't care about a babysitting manager. You only care about HR manager. And so now software is only looking for the HR manager together, not separate. And then if you put a comma after it, you could start typing anything else, like AI and another comma. And if you're searching that, now we're looking for Vietnamese words. So you see that it's getting very, very specific now. And not a lot of people are talking about HR manager plus AI. If you take away the quotes, you'll probably have a lot more results coming back. And you can see, are you looking at airport, Air Force, Air Liquid? All of these things are more keywords that they're looking for. So that's one way to find keywords. But another way is you go to whatever jobs you want. Like I said, here is one job, and you have to use your time to look through, what is this job trying to say? Obviously, somebody in the company, somebody in this organization took the time to write it down, and it's impressive. This is saying that you're supposed to be paid like $200,000 a year. That's cool. But usually they don't say that, because anybody that is looking just for salary is usually not as good of a worker as somebody that really cares about. So you should be looking through, what are the keywords here? And it would say here, the requirements. So the requirements for the job, all of these are obviously much more important than just the general introduction. And then let's look at another one. Here's another job. You can look through the keywords here. Here's another job, the keywords here, here, here. Over through here, this is introducing the company. This is saying what they're looking for, qualifications, requirements, and the region. So here would be more pretty important keywords. How to imply, that's not keywords, but you have to format it this way. So you could find similarities here. Then we go to another one, and you can find more similarities here. Another one, another one, another one. So you can find many keywords by just going through Google like this, but it's best if you try to associate yourselves with those experts that you want to be. Do you remember what I'm talking about there? So in your picture of success, you are here, you're climbing that stairway, you need to associate with other people around you, fine, but find out who has your dream jobs, what do they describe themselves as, what are those keywords, and put those keywords in your resume. So go to a company that has somebody doing your dream job, and then go to another one, another one, another one, and find out what are the same words, what's the overlap with words, and make sure your resume uses those words. Is that clear, Tobias?
Yes, thank you. That was really helpful. Yeah.
How about that trick of ESL? How do you use ESL with what I just said?
Well, you can maybe just use your keywords in one sentence, and then, yeah, afterwards you just kind of repeat your sentence in a different formulation, use different keywords or that are kind of similar but not the same. Kind of
Awesome.
like that.
So the software program will detect you have that keyword, and now you also have something else talking about it, or almost the same thing. So the software will identify that you're actually relevant. What else? Any other way to trick the system or manage that system? What if Lucas says the same keyword 5 times and I've only said it once? Whose resume is going to be on the top? Even though my resume is 43 pages, but Lucas's resume uses that keyword 5 different times. Who's going to be on the top of the resume pile?
I think it's not important using many times one keyword. What is important is using diversification of keywords.
Diversification of keywords is kind of important, but unless you are some genius computer coder, it does make a difference. The computer programs, those ATS, the applicant tracking systems, they will note how many times you're using that keyword. And the people that have that, because what is the manager of the company, what's he going to look at? He probably doesn't understand the software. He's just going to say, find these keywords, period, right? And the computer software is going to be looking through millions of resumes, millions of files, counting the number of keywords. And they're going to put Lucas's resume at 15 keywords and my resume at 3 keywords. So the manager is going to see Lucas's resume as potentially more valuable. Does that make sense? You shouldn't make your resume look crazy. Don't just say professor, 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 professor. That makes you look stupid. But if you could repeat those important keywords, the computer, that's how the computers work. They will track how many times you say that, and whoever has it the most gets at the top of that resume pile. Even if you're not applying for a job, if you're trying to promote your YouTube video, the title of your YouTube video, each word is a keyword. And so when anybody on the other side of the world is typing in something in YouTube or in Google, every word they type in, computer software will track, is my title matching? So choose your title for your resume, your keywords in your resume, and the keywords in your video or your paper. Now, from now on, anything you do, everything is online, everything's tracked. There's basically no more privacy anymore. Understand that's how you're going to get important. That's how you're going to get known. That's how you're going to get noticed. And more people like Elon Musk, they're just hiring people to be a specialist in this area. So start promoting yourself as a specialist in a certain area. Don't be generalized, and build that capability now. Like Pia said a few days ago or a few weeks ago, you must use LinkedIn. Almost all companies search for new people through LinkedIn. And so if you only start LinkedIn the day of the job application, nobody's seeing you, nobody's connected to you, nobody's promoting you, your value is very little. If you've started today or 10 years before you apply for the job, a lot more people have seen your keywords and referenced you or cited you or connected to you. Even if you've never had a job, even if your classmates, listen carefully, Jung Moon, Pia, everybody in class, make your LinkedIn profile for our class and do a favor to me and do a favor to everybody else around you. Go into their LinkedIn and say that the sun shines out their butt, or they're gods or angels or whatever. Say they're great people, give them a recommendation, connect with them, and ask them to do the same for you. Because the more the computer sees you're connected, the more the computer sees people have recommended you, the more anybody looking to hire somebody is likely to see you. Does that make sense? So Linda Cheng, can you, I know that you're Chinese. I made a mistake several times earlier, but do you understand what the importance of what I just said was? Can you repeat that to the class? What should you do with LinkedIn and why?
Did you say that I'm Chinese?
Okay, sorry, be bad. I'm a terrible HR manager. Go ahead.
Okay, you say that it's important to put a keyword because the computer software we track.
Great. And what did I say about LinkedIn and what should you do with LinkedIn?
With LinkedIn?
Yes.
I didn't hear that right now, but
Great, awesome. So I was trying to train you. Number one, I messed up by messing up where you're from. Where is your hometown or where are you from? Are you naturally from Tegu?
I'm from France.
From France, okay. And your name is Solinda Cheng. That's cool. Does anybody else want to volunteer what I was saying about keywords and LinkedIn other than Pia? Because I think Pia is already an expert.
I can tell.
Okay.
Rewind. You said that we should all create our LinkedIn profiles and get connected to each other, write about each other, what we're capable of doing, so that the AI and like if somebody is searching something, we will more likely to get noticed because we have like more people who are helping us with different kinds of keywords.
Okay. And so what are you going to do?
What I should do is create a LinkedIn profile and get connected to my student fellows. And write like on their profile that they're good researchers or something like that, and that will help them and help me get noticed from other companies when we're applying for jobs. So.
Okay, so I am going to show you one more thing. Again, I'm talking too much. I'm trying to teach this idea of orienting training people. I'm not trying to promote myself. This is my private email account. And you can see in here, I have email from LinkedIn all the time. It's the artificial intelligence identifies what is my specialty, and they are promoting 30 new jobs worldwide matching my resume. And so if I click on here, there's many different jobs here. If I open this, this is my LinkedIn profile. And so if I go over, how can I just show, here's my profile. This is my profile. Can you guys still see this okay? Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yes,
okay.
We can see it.
So it's the Professor Sean Watts. It says what I'm doing. My dashboard, who's viewed the profile views and stuff. I have, what does it say? You don't really notice it here. There's 2 different CVs that I have, but I think there's something like 6 or 7 different 7 different resumes I have here because it will continuously introduce me to potential jobs. And so if one is for a dean position, I give a dean level resume. If one is for an assistant professor position, I give an assistant professor level resume. That type of thing. So that's in here. But ultimately, the experience is most important. The more you put in here, the better. And realize one trick to this is sometimes when you are writing in the description, LinkedIn and artificial intelligence programs, the managers that write the code, they will think that you're only allowed to write so much. You're not allowed to put too much. So they may say you're only allowed to put 30 words in your description of your job, what your job responsibilities are. But surprisingly, almost nobody has put a limit on your job titles. So you could almost put your whole resume in the job title, and you will get the software program still registering that. So down here, you can see I have a very long job title. Here's a very long job title versus most people just say one word or two words. So think of that as a trick. Here's another way that the computer system shows you a job. You can look for it in many different ways. Where is it? There should be a way to, these are all different people that are messaging me. These are all people that are trying to introduce to me, people that viewed other people related to it. Somewhere in here, I'm not going to take too much of your time, but what it says is you can see just what the public views, and one of the main things the public views is what is your picture, what is your job title, and you can have that pretty long, what is your interest area, and then it basically jumps to how many people, your, not just your education, but your skills and endorsements. So you can have some people that will promote you. The more people that promote your skills or endorse you, or the more recommendations you have, the better. So try to make a LinkedIn profile and recommend your group mates and endorse your group mates and connect with even the terrible students in class that you don't like. The more connections you have, usually the better. But also understand, the more connections is usually the better, but you can get in trouble if you're associated with like a criminal or somebody that's kind of bad. What is an example of that, especially with HR? HR is usually supposed to represent management first and then employees. So if Tobias or Andreas, if you want to be an HR manager and your LinkedIn friend or the key endorsement or your best, most popular friend in Facebook is a guy that's promoting worker unions all the time, then the people hiring you, the companies hiring you, might think twice. Why would they think twice? Because some companies don't want unions. Unions cost them money. And if they think you are friendly to unions, especially in Asia, a lot of Asian management companies, they will think twice about hiring you, and they may even let you go, not renew your contract if they think that you might promote unions. Is that clear, Andre?
Yes, yes, of course, Professor. Our time is finished, so sorry for disturbing you.
Yes. I think I've already gone through most details. The idea of our class today was talking about the idea of orienting people and training people. Make sure you give them words, of course. Make sure you give them words in a second way to make sure that they understand it. I call that ESL. Make sure that you put it down in pictures or in slides or in Prezi or the PowerPoint presentations. That's usually more professional. And then finally, no matter what you give them, check they understand. If they don't understand, you've just wasted your time. And if somebody says, yes, I appreciate it, thank you very much, it doesn't mean anything. You need to check and get them to repeat what it is. Otherwise, you don't get value out of it. I don't know about you guys, but I am really plugged in with AI. Every morning, my cell phone and my computer is telling me, scanning the world with AI for anything that's following my interests. And it tells me basically almost no next year from 2021 to 2030, they're saying they expect there's going to be no more manager jobs, except managers of medical products or managers of nursing or managers of the coding understanding, not managers of making the code, because making the code, computer code, is going to be automized. It's going to be made by robots, machine learning. They're talking about the no AI, because it's going to be impacting you. It's going to be impacting your future, impacting jobs more than you can believe. For example, even in Korea, every month for the last 2 years, more than, I think it's 103 schools have closed every month. Schools are closing. Universities are closing. They're going online. You're going through a huge change in the world, mostly because of AI, machine learning, Internet of Things. So be aware of that, and learning how to apply with people is a good thing. I'll stop talking. I think the class, did you guys say the class was finished at 10:15?